Now, there have been rumours for quite a while a new team may join the grid. Now, at the moment, the latest team to launch a bid to join F1 is a joint Andretti and Cadillac bid, which could see them become the 11th team in Formula 1. Now, the Andretti name is no stranger to motorsport, with their founder Mario Andretti racing in Formula 1 between 1968 and 72 and 1974 and 1982, making 128 starts and winning the championship in 1978. Now, Andretti Autosport already run teams in IndyCar, Formula E, Extreme E and many more disciplines, but arguably they are most successful in IndyCar, running drivers such as Colton Herta and Romain Grosjean. For this simulation, we will create the Andretti Cadillac Formula 1 entry, led by the 7-time IndyCar race winner Colton Herta. Well, of course, he's going to need a teammate, so Felipe Drugovich will be driving alongside Herta for at least the first season. So let's start this simulation and we'll simulate through 10 years just to see how far Andretti can get. Season 1 is the real life counterpart, and it looks like the winner of the Constructors' Championship remains the same as the Red Bull team winning the title in this first year. Ferrari had a better season than in real life, as they managed to finish behind Red Bull in second place and ahead of Mercedes. When it comes down to the Drivers' Championship, the two Ferrari drivers managed to finish in the top 3, with Ferrari poster boy Charles Leclerc finishing in third, just behind his teammate of Carlos Sainz. But when it comes down to the championship winner, it has to be none other than Max Verstappen. Of course, he wins his first season, as he managed to win 8 races this season, while his teammate of Perez only won once. The Ferrari drivers managed to secure 5 race wins between them, with Leclerc winning 3 times and Sainz winning twice. Both Mercedes drivers were also able to pick up race wins, with Hamilton and Russell each winning once. A decent middle of the pack first season for Andretti Cadillac team, as they finished in a solid 7th place, with Herta scoring 9 points to finish 12th, while Drugovich didn't manage to score and finished in P20. Now, as we look into the driver market at the end of season 1, and unfortunately Haas have decided to drop Nico Hülkenberg and replace him with the Williams driver of Alex Albon. Williams then looked to replace him with Liam Lawson, allowing him to make his debut in Formula 1, and they also swapped their other driver with the Andretti team, as Drugovich moves to Williams and the American of Logan Sargent joins the American team. Now, hopefully we can have a little bit of a shake-up next season, as there will be regulation changes being made to the aerodynamics department, so let's just see how much that does. There was some mid-season moves this year, as Fernando Alonso retires halfway through season 2. Aston Martin go on to sign the Haas driver of Kevin Magnussen, with the former Andretti driver of Drugovich taking his seat at the other American team. An open Williams seat means Dennis Hauger can make his Formula 1 debut for the rest of the season. Now, in terms of the Constructors' Championship, there's been very little movement within the top 4, as it stays the exact same as season 1, with Red Bull leading Ferrari and Mercedes. The top 3 stay similar, as Ferrari's Charles Leclerc once again secured a 3rd place finish, but this time he's beaten by both Red Bulls instead of his teammate. This season it's Perez who finishes runner-up in the Drivers' Championship, once again finishing behind Max Verstappen. An even more dominant season for Verstappen, as he won 10 out of 16 races, with Perez also improving to winning 3 times. Both Ferrari drivers were once again able to score race wins, even if it was only once. Despite retiring halfway through the season, Fernando Alonso was finally able to secure race win number 33 and decides to call it a day after that. Andretti Cadillac lose out slightly more this year, as a P8 finish is secured by Herta's 5 points, with him finishing P14, while Sargent finished in 19th with 0 points. It wasn't a debut to remember for Dennis Hauger, as despite only being signed halfway through the season, he was subsequently dropped by Williams at the end of season 2 in favour of Nick de Vries. Alex Albon then replaces him and returns to his former team in the AlphaTauri. A brand new lineup out Williams next season, as Liam Lawson moves to the open Haas seat, allowing de Ruvela to make his Formula 1 debut with Williams. We're into the 3rd season now, and the Constructors' Championship remains very similar, apart from AlphaTauri overtaking Alfa Romeo and Alpine overtaking Aston Martin. Red Bull take their 3rd title, as they beat both the Ferrari and Mercedes once again. The top 3 of the driver standings have a little shake-up, with Carlos Sainz finishing in 3rd place this season. 2nd place goes to the other Ferrari driver in Charles Leclerc, with the one and only Max Verstappen finishing on top. Once again, Verstappen finished this season winning 10 races, while Carlos Sainz managed to win 3 times. His Ferrari teammate of Charles Leclerc only managed 1 race win alongside Sergio Perez and George Russell. The Andretti Cadillac team once again finishes in 8th place, despite the severe lack of points, with Colton Herta only scoring 1 point, while Sargent is yet to score a Formula 1 championship point. And at the end of this season, we say goodbye to the Mercedes driver of Lewis Hamilton, who has finally decided to retire from Formula 1 and is succeeded by the French driver of Pierre Gasly. De Ruvela moves to Alpine from Williams after just a single season, with Lawson returning to Williams. This creates an open seat at Haas, allowing Dennis Hauger to make his return to the sport. There should be some insane changes next season, as there will be regulation changes to the chassis, powertrain and durability departments. And those regulation changes did cause a shake-up in both the Drivers' and the Constructors' Championship, as McLaren moves to the top of the championship ahead of Red Bull and Mercedes. Ferrari unfortunately dropped all the way down to 5th after finishing 2nd 3 times in a row. The top 3 has 2 new faces, as both McLaren drivers enter, with Oscar Piastri finishing in 3rd place. Despite 3 championships in a row, Max Verstappen drops down to 2nd place, around 50 points behind the other McLaren driver of Lando Norris. Lando Norris won 6 races this season with his teammate of Piastri winning 3 times. Verstappen only managed 2 race wins with George Russell also winning twice. There were 2 new race winners this season with both Aston Martin drivers able to secure a race win alongside Pierre Gasly. The Andretti Cadillac team moved up to P7 in the Constructors' Championship with Colton Herta finishing just outside the top 10 scoring 37 points, and Sargent finally managed to score points even if it was just 4. Only one driver swap happened at the end of this season with Andretti and Aston Martin swapping drivers for next season. There may be a lack of driver moves, but there is no lack of regulation changes, as changes will be made to both the aerodynamics and powertrain departments heading into Season 5. The further regulation changes have allowed Red Bull to return to their top spot and win their 4th championship ahead of Mercedes and Ferrari. 2 new faces are in the Drivers' Championship, starting with the Mercedes driver of Pierre Gasly finishing in 3rd place behind his teammate of George Russell. Max Verstappen is able to reclaim his championship and win his 4th title in this simulation. He didn't dominate the championship though, as both he and George Russell were able to secure 4 race wins each. Their teammates of Sergio Perez and Pierre Gasly were both able to win 3 times, while the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz won twice. The Andretti Cadillac team reached their highest ever finish with a P6 in the Constructors, heavily influenced by 2 top 10 finishes with Magnussen in 9th and Herta in 10th. Heading into the transfer market, and driver moves this season are caused by the retirement of Alfa Romeo driver of Valtteri Bottas, allowing Théo Pourchaire to make his debut in Formula 1 with Alfa Romeo. Carlos Sainz also decides to retire from the sport and is replaced by the Andretti driver of Kevin Magnussen. This forces the team to go and find a new driver, so they go and sign Pierre Gasly. The open seat in the Mercedes means that Marcus Armstrong finds a seat and will race in Formula 1 next season. Armstrong's Mercedes stint didn't last long, as he was actually dropped after 8 races. The one-time champion of Lando Norris then moves into the Mercedes, with his friend of Alex Albon moving into McLaren. Lance Stroll moves away from his dad's team into AlphaTauri, with Armstrong still managing to stay in Formula 1 with Aston Martin. Now there was a large shake-up in the Constructors' Championships, as out of nowhere, the Andretti Cadillac team have climbed their way to the top and have won a Constructors' Championship ahead of Red Bull and Mercedes. Now there are some familiar faces in the top 3 and the Drivers' Championship, but 3rd place goes to the new Mercedes driver of Lando Norris. He beats out his new teammate by just 4 points. 2nd place goes to Max Verstappen, with a brand new face winning the championship as Andretti driver Pierre Gasly takes his 1st ever title. He managed to secure 8 race wins throughout the entire season, with Max only being able to win 3 times. Both George Russell and Sergio Perez were able to win twice, with Lando Norris winning on a single occasion. Now Andretti Cadillac are the newest Constructors' Champions, with Pierre Gasly winning the Drivers' Championship. Colton Herta has his highest ever finish, as he scored 124 points to finish in P7. Now there were a lot of driver moves this season, and it is due to both Red Bull drivers retiring at the same time. Now this means Red Bull need to find 2 new drivers, so they signed the pairing of George Russell and Charles Leclerc. This causes a huge knock-on effect, with Esteban Ocon then moving into Mercedes, with Zhou Guanyu taking his place at Alpine. Liam Lawson moves teams once again as he leaves Williams in favour for Alfa Romeo, and Jack Doohan is unable to take the open seat at Williams. An open Ferrari seat is then taken by Ayumu Iwasa, meaning there will be 2 rookies on the grid next season. Along with that, regulation changes will also be made to the chassis and durability departments. But before we look at how the season unfolded, some drivers did swap teams mid-season. Lance Stroll was unfortunately dropped by AlphaTauri, with Armstrong taking his place. Iwasa didn't impress at Ferrari and then moved on to Aston Martin. Oscar Piastri moves into the Ferrari, with Vips taking the McLaren seat for the remainder of the season. Unfortunately, the Andretti Cadillac team couldn't retain the Constructors' Championship, as they dropped behind the new Red Bull pairing and finished in 2nd place. One of the new Red Bull drivers finished in 3rd place, as Charles Leclerc finishes behind his teammate, as George Russell finished in 2nd. This allowed Pierre Gasly to win back-to-back Drivers' Championships for the Andretti team. And Russell only finished 2nd by 4 points despite winning 7 races, whereas Gasly only won 5. Russell's teammate of Leclerc managed 3 race wins, and a brand new race winner comes in the form of Aston Martin's Iwasa. So Andretti Cadillac team did finish in 2nd place, but Gasly scored the majority of the points, as Herta was only able to score 77 for a P8 finish. Despite winning a race with Aston Martin, Ayumu Iwasa was dropped by Lance Stroll after he decided that he wanted his son back on the team. There will be more regulation changes going into next season, as the powertrain department is going to experience some changes. UV Vips was dropped by McLaren halfway through the season in favour of a race winner in the form of Ayumu Iwasa. Now in Season 8, Red Bull were unable to perform the back-to-back championship wins, and we actually have a new winning team in this simulation, with Mercedes taking the title. The top 3 in the driver's standings had felt the Mercedes takeover, as Esteban Ocon finished in 3rd place, not too far behind his teammate of Lando Norris. Even though they captured the Constructors, Pierre Gasly was able to top the Drivers' Championship for the 3rd season in a row. He managed to win half the races this season, with Lando Norris only being able to win 5. His teammate of Ocon won twice, with the Red Bull of George Russell having a rough season and only winning once. Andretti once again finished in second place with Gasly winning the title, and Colton Herta is somewhat struggling as he drops down to P11 after only scoring 61 points. Unfortunately for the Andretti Cadillac team, their three-time world champion Pierre Gasly has decided to retire after equalling the likes of Nelson Piquet and Ayrton Senna. This means the team will have to sign a new driver, and after a really good season with Williams, Jack Doohan has decided to join the team. Dennis Hauger then completes a move into the open Williams seat, with Vips returning to drive for Haas. There will be some regulation changes to both the aerodynamics and chassis departments going into next season. We are now in the penultimate season, and Mercedes have been able to win back-to-back championships ahead of the Red Bull and the Andretti Cadillac teams. Esteban Ocon is unfortunate and remains in third place in this Drivers' Championship, finishing behind the new Andretti driver of Jack Doohan. This allows Lando Norris to return to the top of the standings and win his second championship. He only won 5 races this season, with Doohan actually winning more at 6. Lando's teammate of Esteban Ocon won 2 races, with the Red Bulls having a small resurgence, with Russell winning twice and Leclerc winning once. The Andretti Cadillac team dropped down to 3rd in the Constructors after Jack Doohan's 2nd place. Colton Herta does return to the top 10 as he finishes 10th on 39 points. Unfortunately, during the off-season, Jack Doohan suffered an injury and was not able to compete in the final season of this simulation. This forces Andretti to find another driver as they head back to Season 2 and reunite the American driver of Logan Sargent with the American team. This means there is an open seat at Aston Martin, which Marcus Armstrong takes, allowing Frederick Vesti to race in Formula 1 before this simulation ends. Before we look at the final season, there were some mid-season moves, with Yuri Vips being dropped by Haas and replaced by Richard Verschoor. Alpine and AlphaTauri have come to an agreement as Vesti and Deruvula will swap seats for the rest of the season. And we are now in Season 10, the last one of this simulation, and it's a return to winning ways for the Red Bull team as they beat Mercedes, Andretti and the rest of the grid. Their driver of George Russell rounds out the top 3, finishing just behind the Mercedes of Lando Norris. This means that we have a brand new champion, with the Red Bull of Charles Leclerc taking the title. He won 7 races this season, which proved he deserved it, with his teammate only winning 3 times. Lando Norris in the Mercedes secured 5 race wins, with his teammate of Ocon only winning once. And unfortunately, the Andretti team could only finish 3rd in the championship after Sargent finished in 5th and was actually tied with Ocon on points, but Herta finished in 11th after scoring only 48. But that is now the simulation with the Andretti Cadillac team done, so let's have a look at the numbers throughout the 10 seasons. As we look at the stats of the 10 years, we can see that 4 different teams won a Constructors' Championship, with Red Bull winning the most with 6. Mercedes managed to win twice, with both the McLaren and the Andretti Cadillac teams winning once. 4 different drivers won a World Championship, with Verstappen winning 4, Gasly winning 3, Norris winning 2 and Leclerc winning 1. In total, 15 different drivers stood on the top step of the podium, with Verstappen leading the way after winning 37 races. Gasly won 25, Russell 23 and Norris 22. Leclerc won 16 races just like his race number, and Perez won 10 times. Carlos Sainz won 8, Doohan won 6, Ocon won 5 and Piastri won 3 races. Alonso, Iwasa, Magnussen, Stroll and Hamilton all won just 1 F1 race in this simulation. And that is it for this video, but I do have a question for you. Do you think F1 should add more teams to the grid, or is 10 enough? Leave your answer in the comments below and I will have a look through them. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and give me some ideas in the comments. But from me, have a good day, evening or night, and goodbye.